Tennessee Republican Congressman and Chair of the House Homeland Security Committee, Mark Green, joins us now. Congressman, very good to see you. We'll get to Israel and other matters in a moment that are important to the jurisdiction of your committee, but I want to get your impressions on where things stand with voting to elect a Speaker of the House of Representatives. I know you support Jim Jordan. Ken Buck, Republican colleague from Colorado, told me just a couple of minutes ago he expects in subsequent votes, Jim Jordan will, in his words, not mine, bleed votes each and every vote. Do you believe that's what's going to happen?
What's going on the floor of the House right now and throughout the House is this process of coming out with a speaker. And it's ugly. And as you mentioned in your previous monologues, there are various sections of our conference. We don't work like they do, robotically following the leader. We have independent thought, and we have guys who represent different districts, and they're all, trying to pick the best person for them and for their district. It's challenging, but we will get it done, and I think Jim Jordan will be the speaker.
When do you think that will occur?
Well, hopefully tomorrow. If it were me, I'd be voting tonight and continuing to vote. That's kind of how Kevin did it in January, and I think that's the best way to go. But they've chosen to work the noes this afternoon and this evening, and hopefully they'll get enough across the finish line for tomorrow.
What does it tell you that they worked the noes last night and there were more of them today than there were yesterday?
Well, they actually moved the total number. You're right. He picked up a couple of them and was expecting a few others. And again, there are protest votes. People have to say, I voted initially no, and then, he's the guy, that's who it's going to be. So then they changed their vote the other way. There were a couple of people who did that too. So they're just going to continue to work them. One of the things you have to remember too is Jim Jordan is more popular than McCarthy in most districts in the country, more popular than Joe Biden, and more popular than Hakeem Jeffries. So if you do the popularity contest, approve, disapprove, Jim Jordan's, and so those folks are calling their congressman and tell them, hey, we like Jim.
Do you have any support at all, or can you imagine yourself ever supporting a move to temporarily enlarge the powers of the Speaker pro tem?
My concern there is the constitutionality of it. And so from my understanding and some legal counsel that I've gotten, I don't believe that's an option. And so we have to get to a speaker. And that's why I said we should be on the floor right now voting. We have to get this done and get it done fast.
On to Israel. What is your current assessment of the situation there? President Biden, while traveling back from Israel, just gaggled with reporters. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Congressman, so if you're not, let me just say what the president said, that the Egyptian president, al-Sisi, has agreed to open the Rafah gate and allow humanitarian assistance into the country. The president described him as highly cooperative in this matter, and that if Hamas stops any of that or intercepts any of that aid from getting to the civilians, it will end. But the president said it's a cooperative agreement between the Netanyahu government and the al-Sisi government in Egypt and Israel. Your reaction?
Well, I think that's good news. What a lot of people don't realize is that Hamas is terrorizing some Palestinians, a lot of Palestinians. Now, there are Palestinians that support Hamas in the Gaza Strip, but there are a lot of Palestinians who don't. And that's something that Americans need to be aware of. Hamas is the terrorist organization that currently controls Gaza, but they are not beloved by many Palestinians. And those are the individuals we want to help and make sure they have the humanitarian assistance that they need. But Hamas, they're murderous, subhuman. They beheaded babies. These people need to be destroyed. And so support what Israel's doing, but I also support making sure that the citizenry have a way to get out and have a way to get the things that they need.
On what level do you, in terms of priority, Congressman, do you place Israeli and collaborative U.S. efforts to free the hostages inside Gaza?
Look, that's the hardest thing there is. And in Gaza, it's the hardest, hostage rescue. I was a flight surgeon for a special operations aviation unit and worked with our Tier 1 assets. Hostage rescue is the hardest thing there is. And that location with the subterranean, environment, it's very difficult. So negotiations, I think, are the first step. You do everything you can. And if I were the president, I'd be telling Hamas, you got 72 hours or we're coming. We got to be very firm with these people. And the same with Iran, they're backers. But do everything you can to get them out, and then you go rescue them if you can.
Congressman, as you're aware, the president said earlier today that U.S. intelligence, independent of Israel, asserts that it was a Palestinian terrorist organization, not Hamas, that launched the rocket or the missile or the projectile that hit the hospital, killing some 200, 300, maybe 500 people. Was that intelligence shared with you? Do you have any reason to doubt it?
I've seen the videos on sort of the backside of it, and yes, I have seen both from my friends. You know, when I was in the special operation community, I have friends that are still in the IDF, and they've sent me video, and I've seen what our government has, and so I'm 100% certain this was not Israel. This was an errant rocket that probably potentially hit some ammunition supply areas,
and therefore the blame lands upon those who fired it, and you are convinced it was not Israeli Defense Forces.
I am 100%.
And do you believe that should in any way shed additional light on the moral equation of this conflict?
Well, collateral damage, this is total war in a way. I mean, and we haven't fought total war in a really long time. I mean, Americans tend to, not think of it the way it was back in World War II. That's been a long time ago in our history. So these guys came into Israel, cut babies' heads off, raped women. I mean, so the concept of war has to change. That concept means more collateral damage. And while Israel does everything that it can to limit that and minimize that, there will be some. Now, the bad guys, the Hamas terrorists and folks like that, they don't care. They don't care about collateral damage. They want collateral damage. So from a moral equation, I'm not sure it really tips it any for me, because, I mean, we're approaching this thing from two different sort of standpoints. One group that wants as many casualties killed as possible, and one, Israel, the United States, the West, wants as little as humanly possible. So the moral equation doesn't change.